Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Insurance Experts. My name is Marc Glickman. I'm an actuary and a long-term care professional, and it's my pleasure to have on the line Honey Leveen. She's a long-term care specialist. We're actually working together on a project with Phyllis Shelton, collaborating to help clients out there with long-term care planning. Thanks, Honey, for joining us today.
Mark, it's my pleasure to be here.
So, Honey, tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into the long-term care space.
I have had an insurance license way over 30 years. I learned about this product over 30 years ago. Long-term care insurance immediately resonated with me and struck a chord. I believed it was a product people didn't have yet and people were going to need very badly.
So, if you have to estimate over the past 30 years, how many clients do you feel like you've helped with long-term care?
I probably have approximately 3,000 clients.
A lifetime of clients.
A lot have gone on claim and collected from the policies.
Wow.
Now that's been very exciting.
So one of the reasons I'm so excited to work with you is all that experience that you bring to the table. And we're also helping clients today with their long-term care plans. Tell me a little bit about a case you recently worked on. I just want to hear about the client story and how they came to you in the first place.
They found me through Phyllis's project. They are a sophisticated client, and it's a more sophisticated case than I would generally get, because the client was eligible to apply for two different group long-term care plans. So she needed to be shown, we needed to discover, and I needed to prove to her whether or not the group plans were going to be more competitive than the individual plans.
Interesting. Yeah, and we hear about this a lot where people have access to options through their employer. They're not as common anymore, but still they take sometimes new hires or new enrollees, or the federal plan. Some of the states or the federal government have special plans. So people have access to policies outside of the private world. So how do you think of when you're looking at those plans versus an option in the private market from an insurance company? What do you do to help the client compare those two to each other?
The first thing we do is get a quote from the group plan, Mark, and then we will use comparison software, long-term care specific comparison software, and we will get a quote from the group plan, and we will do the same benefits or as close to identical as possible with individual long-term care. And then we'll just look at them and see which one is more competitive.
Okay, so you're looking at kind of apples to apples benefits and then comparing the price and seeing which one's more better deal effectively for the client. And what do you typically see when you're doing those comparisons? Let's say if we're looking at a government, federal program, something like that.
If the client has reasonable or better than average health, in general, they're going to do better with traditional individual long-term care insurance. And that's because the group plans don't offer spousal discounts and they don't offer preferred rate bands.
Oh, I see. Okay. So it's almost like having another option, which has certain pros and cons, but in the case of healthier individuals, you get a better deal because the insurance company is drilling down a little bit more on those particular factors and can offer a lower price because of it.
Yeah, and if you're married, it's near certain that you'll get a better deal with individual long-term care insurance.
Okay. And so tell me about this client. She looked at both a group plan as well as one of the government plans. And when you did this comparison, what did you find for her?
We did, they were coming in pretty close in price, but the individual plans do have more benefits and more features on them and flexibility and more ability to create different designs.
Okay. And so what feature was particularly appealing to this client that you were talking to?
Yeah, when she discovered what shared care was, she really fell in love with it.
Oh, shared care.
Yeah, that put it over the top for the individual coverage.
Okay.
Plus, one is going to get preferred rates, I'm pretty sure. And they get a hefty spousal discount as well.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's a couple of things going on here. The client actually is married and they're both applying. And shared care applies to married couples. First of all, for those out there who haven't heard of it, it's kind of more of a long-term care specific benefit. What does shared care do?
It multiplies the length of time you can use the policy and collect from it. and but it doubles the person's use without doubling the cost of the policy.
I
So,
got
and literally, you do share spousal benefits. You can.
Okay, and I guess the concept is each spouse has their own pool of benefits, and with the shared care, it allows either one to tap into the other person's benefit pool, or maybe even create a third benefit pool, which creates that doubling effect that you described.
Right. And on the contrary, it can enable a spouse to inherit the deceased spouse's benefit period. So they could, yeah, they could be left with twice as much coverage as their original benefit period.
Right. And when we're working with Phyllis, I know a lot of the clients are very savvy. They've done a lot of research beforehand and looking at their plans. Did this client actually know about the shared care? Or is that something you brought up to her?
He actually was the best kind of client, a highly sophisticated client, and she formerly held an insurance license. So she had done some research
Oh,
on shared care. Yeah.
interesting. Interesting. So she was actually potentially licensed to provide herself her own policy because she had an insurance license. But it's a pretty specialized topic, long-term care planning and all the different products. So
Right.
was that something when she came to you, was she kind of happy that you were able to provide this knowledge to her? Or did she feel like she knew it already?
Yes, and she has vocally expressed this to me already. Because when you have a sophisticated case like this, I believe only a long-term care insurance specialist would have known what to do and the steps to take to illustrate and do an accurate comparison between the group and the individual. I don't think anybody but a specialist would have known how to simplify that and de-confuse it. So we
Right.
had to do this particular sale in stages. First, let's see if the groups are better. If they are, let's go to them. If they're not, then we can come over. We can look closer at traditional long-term care. So
Right.
first we had to do that, and I had to prove to her satisfaction. And we did it scientifically, mathematically. You could see it was better.
Yeah.
So we had to pass that, and then we had to go into custom designing the plan that they wanted.
Very cool. Now, if somebody wanted to kind of quote themselves online, there's a lot like with term life insurance, for example, you can go online, you can quote rates. Can you do that with long-term care insurance too, or not really?
No, and Mark, I think that's why when they have group company offerings of long-term care, they don't have a high take-up rate because long-term care purchase is a lifelong decision. It's not a trivial amount of money. You're going to hold that policy 10, 20, 30 years before you start to gain any benefit from it. You better be darn sure and confident in what you're doing. And without expert advice, people really don't understand what is better for them, so they don't take up the group offerings a lot of the time.
I see. And also, from the pricing software, if you're trying to search online, there's so many different features. I don't think the carriers actually provide that to consumers. There's really no provider of it. There are like third parties that actually have subscription services just specifically for long-term care specialists so that they can do comparisons easier. But I don't think the average consumer, their eyes would cross a little bit probably trying to use it, right?
Well, yes, and from 30 years of doing this, I've had a lot of clients thank me for because it's got a learning curve, it's a specialty area, and it's the type of thing that once you buy it, if you're properly informed and confident going into it, with every passing day, with every passing year, you're going to be more and more grateful that you own it. And the policy, when you get to be my age, the policy almost gives you a tangible increased sense of security, knowing that you have.
Right. Well, I kind of on that note, I think that was a perfect way to kind of wrap this up. But I do want to have you on future episodes. I know we're working with a lot of clients together, and I really appreciate what you're doing and helping families out there. Thanks so much, Honey.
Oh, you're so welcome, Mark, and thanks so much for this opportunity.